Kim Tae-min rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the clock on the lab wall. 3 in the morning. He had been working on his quantum mechanics project for 6 straight hours, and his brain felt like mush. Empty coffee cups covered his desk, and his notebook was filled with crossed-out equations. The engineering lab at Seoul National University was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Most students had gone home hours ago, but Tae-min needed to finish his project before the deadline. Tomorrow. His professor was known for being strict about late submissions. He stretched his arms above his head and walked to the window. The campus looked peaceful under the streetlights. Trees swayed gently in the night breeze. Tae-min was about to return to his work when something caught his eye in the sky. A bright light was falling fast toward the forest behind the university. At first, he thought it might be a shooting star, but it was too big and too bright. The light grew larger as it fell, and Tae-min could see it was heading straight for the woods. What the hell? He whispered to himself. The object crashed into the forest with a loud boom that shook the lab windows. Car alarms started going off in the parking lot. Tae-min waited for a few minutes, expecting to hear sirens, but none came. Maybe no one else had seen it. His curiosity got the better of him. Tae-min had always been the type of person who needed to know how things worked. When he was a child, he took apart every electronic device in his house just to see what was inside. His mother used to joke that he was born with a screwdriver in his hand. He grabbed his backpack and stuffed it with tools from the lab, a flashlight, some wire cutters, a multimeter, and his laptop. If it really was a meteor, maybe he could find some interesting minerals. If it was something else, well, he would figure that out when he got there. The walk to the forest took 10 minutes. The night air was cool and helped wake him up. As he got closer to the crash site, he could smell something burning. Not wood or leaves, but something metallic and strange. Tae-min followed a trail of broken branches and found a clearing where something had definitely crashed. But when he shined his flashlight on the object, his mouth fell open in shock. It was not a meteor. It was some kind of vehicle, about the size of a small car, but shaped like nothing he had ever seen. The surface was smooth and dark, almost black, with lines of dim blue light running along its sides. Parts of it were dented and smoking. This is impossible, Tae-min said out loud. He walked around the strange craft, taking pictures with his phone. There were no wheels, no wings, nothing that looked like normal transportation. The blue lines were getting dimmer as he watched, and he realized they might be some kind of power system that was failing. On one side of the craft, he found what looked like a door or hatch. It was slightly open, and a soft yellow light came from inside. Tae-min knew he should probably call the police or the military, but his curiosity was stronger than his common sense. He pulled the hatch open wider and peered inside. A person was lying unconscious on what looked like a chair or bed. At least, Tae-min thought it was a person. She looked human, but there was something different about her. Her skin had a faint glow, like moonlight on water. Her hair was long and silver, not gray like an old person, but actually silver like metal. Her fingers were longer than normal human fingers. She was breathing, but very slowly. Her clothes were made of some material that looked like liquid metal formed into fabric. There was a dark stain on her shirt that looked like blood. "Hey," Tae-min called softly. "Are you okay?" The woman did not respond. He climbed into the craft to get a better look. The inside was even stranger than the outside. Panels covered with symbols he did not recognize lined the walls. Some kind of screen showed scrolling text in a language that looked like no alphabet he had ever seen. But what worried him most was that all the lights were getting dimmer. Whatever powered this thing was dying, and if this woman needed the machine to stay alive, she was in serious trouble. Tae-min looked at the panels, and tried to understand what he was seeing. There were what looked like gauges and indicators, some showing red symbols that probably meant danger or failure. He found something that looked like it might be a power display, and the bar was almost empty. He pulled out his laptop and looked at the ports and connections on the craft's control panel. Some of them looked similar to the kinds of connectors he used in the engineering lab. Different, but similar enough that maybe he could do something working quickly. Tae-min found a cable in his backpack that almost fit one of the ports. He used some wire and electrical tape to make an adapter. Then he connected his laptop's power supply to what he hoped was the craft's power system. The lights got a little brighter. The woman's breathing seemed to improve slightly. It was working, but Tae-min knew his laptop battery would not last long. He looked at the woman again. She was definitely not human, but she was clearly intelligent and in trouble. Whatever she was, wherever she came from, she needed help. And for some reason, Tae-min felt responsible for her now. He could not take her to a hospital. How would he explain an alien woman to the doctors? But he could not leave her here either. The craft was too damaged to protect her, and his makeshift power solution would not last more than an hour. Tae-min made a decision that would change his life forever. He carefully lifted the unconscious woman in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, but still solid and real. Her skin felt warm and somehow familiar, despite its strange glow. "I hope I am doing the right thing," he whispered as he carried her away from the crashed craft and toward his apartment. Behind them, the alien ship's lights finally went dark. Tae-min's apartment was small and messy, just like most student housing. Empty pizza boxes sat on the kitchen counter, and textbooks covered every surface. His roommate Park Dong-hyun was supposed to be asleep, but Tae-min could hear him playing video games in his room with his headphones on. Tae-min carefully laid the unconscious woman on his bed. Under the light of his desk lamp, she looked even more unusual. Her silver hair seemed to move slightly, even though there was no breeze. The glow of her skin was more obvious now, like she had swallowed a dim flashlight. He did not know anything about alien biology, but he knew about basic first aid. Her breathing was steady but shallow. Her pulse felt normal, though her wrist was warmer than a human's should be. The dark stain on her shirt was definitely blood, but when he carefully lifted the fabric, the wound underneath looked like it was already healing. Tae-min sat in his desk chair and stared at her. This was really happening. There was an alien in his bed. Not just any alien, but one who looked almost human. Did that mean there were others? Was she from another planet? Another galaxy? His mind raced with questions, but he was interrupted by a knock on his bedroom door. "Tae-min, are you okay in there? I heard weird noises." Dong-hyun's voice came through the door. "I'm fine," Tae-min called back. "Just working on my project." "At 4 a.m? Dude, you need to sleep." "I will. Just give me a few more minutes." Tae-min heard footsteps walking away. He looked back at the woman on his bed. How was he going to explain this to Dong-hyun? His roommate was a computer science major, logical and practical. He would probably insist they call the police or the government. The woman stirred slightly. Her eyes fluttered but did not open. She made a soft sound, almost like she was trying to speak. Tae-min leaned closer to listen. "Can you hear me?" He whispered. Her eyes opened suddenly. They were the most beautiful eyes Tae-min had ever seen, like looking into deep space filled with distant stars. But they were also filled with fear and confusion. She sat up quickly, too quickly. She looked around the room frantically, then focused on Tae-min. She said something in a language that sounded like music mixed with mathematics. When he did not respond, she tried again in a different language that sounded like wind through. "Metal. I don't understand." Taemin said slowly. Do you speak English, Korean? The woman pressed her hand to her temple and closed her eyes. She seemed to be concentrating on something. After a few seconds, she opened her eyes and looked at him again. Testing, she said. Her voice was soft, but had an odd echo, like she was speaking from the bottom of a well. Language processing ... active. You helped me. Taemin's heart jumped. She was speaking English now, though with a strange accent he could not place ... Yes, I found you in the forest. Your ship crashed. Are you hurt? Ship? She looked confused. For a moment, and her eyes widened. My escape pod. The systems failed. I should be dead. You almost were. The power was dying when I found you. I connected my laptop to give you some energy, but it was not much. She stared at him with those amazing eyes. You understood my technology? But you are ... You are human. The way she said human made it sound like she was saying insect or bacteria. Not mean exactly, but surprised. Yes, I'm human. My name is Kim Tae-min. What's your name? I am Princess Nari of the Veltheron Empire. She tried to stand up, but wobbled and sat back down. Though there may not be much of an empire left by now. Princess? Tae-min felt even more confused. Empire? Nari looked at him carefully, like she was trying to decide how much to tell him. My people lived on a planet called Velther. It was peaceful, beautiful. We spent our time learning and creating art and exploring the mysteries of the universe. But 3 cycles ago, the Kethmoran Syndicate invaded us. Invaded? Like a war? Not a war. Wars happen between equals. This was conquest. The Kethmoran are ... Do you say business people? But their business is taking over planets and selling their resources. They took our world because it has rare crystals that power faster than light travel. Tae-min tried to process this information. Aliens, faster than light travel, galactic conquest. It sounded like a science fiction movie. My father sent me to seek help from the Galactic Council, Nari continued. But someone sabotaged my ship. The navigation failed, and I crashed here on your world. Earth has a Galactic Council? Nari looked at him with what might have been pity. No, your species is not advanced enough yet. Most civilizations do not even know you exist. You are listed in the galactic database as primitive pre-contact species. No offense. None taken, I guess. Tae-min felt a little insulted, but also fascinated. So there are lots of alien species out there? Thousands. Most of them much more advanced than humans. Which is why I do not understand how you were able to interface with my technology. It should have been impossible for someone at your level of development. Before Tae-min could answer, his bedroom door opened. Dong Hyan stuck his head in, probably to ask about the strange voices he was hearing. Dong Hyan saw Nari sitting on the bed, and his eyes went wide. He saw her glowing skin and silver hair, and his mouth fell open. He tried to say something, but only made a squeaking sound. Dong Hyan, wait, Tae-min started to say, but Nari raised her hand, and Dong Hyan froze in place like a statue. His eyes could still move, and they were moving a lot, but the rest of his body was completely still. What did you do to him? Tae-min asked. Temporary neural paralysis. He will be fine, but we need to decide what to do. If other humans discover me, it could cause problems for both our species. Tae-min looked at his frozen roommate, then back at Nari. He's my friend. I trust him. And we need help. I don't know how to take care of an alien princess. Nari studied Dong Hyan's face. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her, because she waved her hand again. Dong Hyan suddenly stumbled forward, free to move. What the hell was that? Dong Hyan gasped. Who is she? Why does she glow? Dong Hyan, meet Princess Nari. She's from another planet. Nari, this is my roommate, Park Dong-hyan. He's annoying but trustworthy. Dong-hyan looked back and forth between them. This is a joke, right? Some kind of prank? Did you hire a cosplayer? Nari stood up, and this time she did not wobble. She walked to Dong-hyan's gaming computer and placed her hand on the monitor. The screen filled with symbols and images that looked nothing like any human technology. Complex diagrams and star charts appeared and disappeared faster than the eye could follow. Your computing device is primitive, but functional, she said. I have downloaded some basic information about your species and your planet. You are more interesting than the galactic database suggested. Dong-hyan sat down heavily in Tae-min's desk chair. Okay, I believe you. There's an alien princess in our apartment. This is either the best or worst day of my life. Probably both, Tae-min said. But she needs our help. The people who destroyed her planet might come looking for her. Nari nodded. The Keth-Morin will track my energy signature eventually. When they do, they will find this planet. I should leave before that happens. Can your ship fly? Tae-min asked. Not without major repairs. And I do not have the tools or materials I need. Then we help you fix it, Dong-hyan said suddenly. Both Tae-min and Nari looked at him in surprise. What? If bad aliens are coming to Earth, I want the good. Alien to have a working spaceship. Tae-min smiled. This was why Dong-hyan was his friend. When things got crazy, Dong-hyan got practical. There is one problem, Nari said quietly. My people have been watching your species for some time. Humans have a reputation for violence and unpredictability. If the Galactic Council learns that I made contact with you, there could be serious consequences. What kind of consequences? Tae-min asked. The kind that usually end with the primitive species being relocated to a different planet, for their own protection, of course. Tae-min and Dong-hyan looked at each other. They were in more trouble than they had realized. 3 days had passed since Nari's arrival, and Tae-min was starting to feel the strain. He had been skipping classes to take care of the alien princess, making excuses about being sick. Dong-hyan was helping when he could, but keeping such a huge secret was wearing on both of them. Nari was recovering quickly. Her wound had healed completely, leaving only a faint silver line on her skin. She could walk around the apartment now, though she moved carefully, always listening for sounds. That might mean danger. The Keth-Morin tracking ships should reach this system soon, she said, looking out the window at the morning sky. They are very good at following energy trails. How long do we have? Tae-min asked. Perhaps a day, maybe less. Tae-min had spent the last 3 days learning about Nari's technology. She had shown him diagrams and explained basic principles of faster-than-light travel, energy manipulation, and quantum communications. What amazed her was how quickly he understood concepts that took most aliens years to grasp. Your mind works differently than other species I have met, she had told him. Most beings learn in a straight line. You learn in spirals, connecting ideas in ways that should not work, but somehow do. Now, as they prepared for the arrival of her enemies, Tae-min was grateful for his strange way of thinking. They would need every advantage they could get. Dr. Lee Soo-jin had been trying to reach Tae-min for 2 days. She was his quantum mechanics professor and one of the smartest people he knew. When he finally answered her call, she sounded worried. Tae-min, you missed the project deadline. That's not like you. Are you really sick? Yes, Professor Lee. I'm sorry. I'll make it up as soon as I can. I'm coming over to check on you. A good teacher looks after her students. Before Tae-min could protest, she hung up. He looked at Nari in panic. My professor is coming here. She's very smart and very suspicious. If she sees you, I could use the neural paralysis again, Nari suggested. No, If she disappears for too long, people will look for her. We need a different plan. Dong Haiyan looked up from his computer, where he had been monitoring news reports. Maybe we should tell her the truth. You said she's smart, right? Smart people adapt to new information. 20 minutes later, Dr. Lee Soo-jin knocked on their door. She was a small woman in her 40s, with sharp eyes and graying hair. Tae-min had always thought she could see right through him when he tried to hide something in class. Professor Lai, thank you for coming, Tae-min said as he opened the door. But I'm feeling much better now. She pushed past him into the apartment and looked around. Her eyes took in everything, the scattered textbooks, the strange electronic equipment Tae-min had borrowed from the lab, and the smell of ozone that seemed to follow Nari around. Where did you get that oscilloscope? She asked, pointing to a device on the kitchen table. That's not from the university lab. I borrowed it from a friend. Dr. Lee walked closer to the device and examined it. This isn't human technology. The materials are wrong, and the energy readings are impossible. Nari chose that moment to walk out of the bedroom. She had been trying to stay hidden, but when she heard Dr. Lee's words, curiosity got the better of her. Dr. Lee saw her and stopped, talking mid-sentence. For a long moment, the two women stared at each other. The professor's scientific mind was clearly working, taking in Nari's glowing skin, her silver hair, and the way she seemed to move just slightly differently than a human would. Fascinating, Dr. Lee said finally. Extraterrestrial? Nari looked at Tae-min, who nodded. Yes, I am Princess Nari of Velther, and you are Dr. Lee Soo-jin, professor of quantum mechanics and specialist in theoretical physics. How do you know that? I have been studying your species' scientific literature. Your work on quantum entanglement is quite advanced for your technological level. Dr. Lee sat down heavily on their couch. This is really happening. There's an alien in my student's apartment. And there are more aliens coming, Dong Haiyan added. Bad ones who want to capture her. The Keth Morin Syndicate, Nari explained. They will arrive soon, and when they do, they will not care about protecting your world or your people. They will do whatever is necessary to find me. Dr. Lee looked around the room again, this time seeing everything with new eyes. The equipment. You've been trying to repair her ship. We've been trying, Tae-min said, but we don't have the right materials or tools. What do you need? Nari showed Dr. Lee the diagrams she had drawn. The professor studied them carefully, asking questions about power sources, energy flow, and the strange crystals that made faster-than-light travel possible. This is incredible, Dr. Lei said. These principles, they're like nothing we've discovered, but they make perfect sense. If we could understand this technology, your species is not ready, Nari said gently. These advances took my people thousands of years to develop safely. But we don't have thousands of years, Tae-min pointed out. We have maybe hours. Dr. Lee stood up and walked to the window. There have been strange reports around the city for the past day. Unexplained electromagnetic phenomena. Aircraft instruments malfunctioning. Police reports of invisible objects in the sky. The Keth Morin scouts, Nari said, her voice tight with worry. They are already here. At that moment, Detective Oh Min-ho was sitting in his car on the other side of the city, staring at his fourth impossible report of the day. 3 different witnesses had reported seeing aircraft that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. His radio had been crackling with static all morning, and now his compass was spinning like a top. Detective Oh had been a cop for 15 years. He had seen drug dealers, gang violence, and every kind of human craziness Seoul had to offer. But this was different. This felt like something was hunting in his city. He picked up his radio. Control, this is Detective O. I need a task force assembled. Something unusual is happening, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Back in the apartment, Nari suddenly went rigid. Her eyes closed and her head tilted, like she was listening to something only she could hear. "They have found the crash site," she said. "3 ships, cloaked but scanning for my energy signature. They will track it here within the hour. Then we run," Dong Haiyan said. "Where?" "They can track me anywhere on this planet." Dr. Lee looked at the diagrams again. "What if we don't run? What if we fight?" Everyone stared at her. "Professor, these are advanced aliens with energy weapons and faster than light travel," Taemin said. "We have laptops and good intentions. We have something they don't expect," Dr. Lee replied. "Human ingenuity. They're looking for a Veiltharan princess using Veiltharan technology. They're not looking for humans using hybrid technology." She turned to Nari. "You said my student learns differently than other species. What if that's true for all humans? What if we can use your technology in ways they've never seen before?" Nari looked thoughtful. "It is possible. Your species does seem to have an unusual approach to problem solving." "Then we don't run," Taemin said. "We make a stand." Dong Haiyan pulled up a map of the city on his computer. "If they're tracking energy signatures, we can use that against them. Lead them where we want them to go." "The university," Dr. Lee said. "I have access to the physics lab. Particle accelerators, electromagnetic field generators, enough equipment to fight back." Nari looked at the 3 humans who had decided to risk everything to help her. "You do not understand what you are choosing. The Kethmoran are ruthless. They will not hesitate to destroy your entire city if necessary." "Then we make sure they don't get the chance," Taemin said. Outside, invisible to human eyes, 3 alien ships descended toward Seoul. Their sensors had locked onto the Veiltharan princess's energy signature, and their commander was preparing his capture team. But the aliens had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that humans would behave like every other primitive species they had encountered. They expected fear, confusion, and surrender. They were about to learn that humans were different. The Seoul National University Physics Lab looked like a war zone. Taemin, Dong Haiyan, and Dr. Lee had spent 4 hours moving equipment, running cables, and creating the strangest defense system ever built by humans. Microwave ovens sat next to particle accelerators. Car batteries were wired to quantum field generators. Nari's alien technology was integrated with everything from cell phone boosters to industrial welding equipment. "This should not work," Nari said for the 10th time as she watched Dr. Lee connect her ship's power crystal to a modified MRI machine. "Your technology is too primitive to interface properly with mine." "That's exactly why it might work," Dr. Lee replied, checking her connections. "Your enemies expect Veiltharan technology. They've never seen human-alien hybrid systems." Captain Yoon Jae-wook of the Korean military had arrived an hour ago with a small team of soldiers. Detective Oh Min-ho had convinced his superiors that something big was happening, and the military had been called in to investigate the strange phenomena around the city. Captain Yoon was a practical man who had served in peacekeeping missions around the world. When Dr. Lee showed him Nari and explained the situation, he had listened carefully, asked several pointed questions, and then started helping with the preparations. "In my experience," he had told his confused soldiers, "when smart people tell you aliens are coming, you should probably listen." Now he was positioning his men around the lab, while Taemin made final adjustments to their makeshift defense grid. "The tracking signals are getting stronger," Nari reported. Her hand pressed to a device that looked like a cross between a smartphone and a crystalline flower. "They will be here in minutes." Dong Haiyan looked up from his laptop, where he had hacked into the city's traffic control system, emergency broadcast network, and power grid. "I've got control of every electronic system within 10 blocks. If they want to fight, they'll get one." The first sign of trouble was when all the streetlights around the university started flickering. Then car alarms began going off in a pattern that moved from south to north, as if something invisible was passing overhead. "They're here," Nari whispered. Through the lab windows, they could see nothing. But Nari's instruments showed 3 large objects hovering above the campus, each one the size of a small building. "Why aren't they attacking?" Captain Yoon asked. "They want me alive," Nari explained. "The Kethmoran will try to capture me first. They need information about the remaining Veltheron resistance." A voice suddenly filled the air around them, speaking in a language that sounded like metal scraping. "Against stone," Nari translated. "He says I should surrender now, and they will spare this planet. If I resist, they will demonstrate why primitive species should not interfere in galactic affairs." "Tell them we declined their generous offer," Dr. Lee said grimly. Nari spoke in her own language, her voice carrying clearly, despite the fact that she was talking to ships in the sky. The response came back immediately, angry and threatening. "I told them that humans do not surrender. He says they will show us the price of defiance." The attack began with a sound like thunder that never ended. Energy beams lanced down from the yacht. Invisible ships striking the university buildings around the physics lab. But instead of destroying the structures, the beams seemed designed to disable them. Lights went out, electronics failed, and a strange silence fell over the campus. "Suppression field," Nari explained. "They are trying to cut off all our technology before they land." But the suppression field had one unexpected effect. When it hit Taemin's hybrid defense system, strange things started happening. The mixture of human and alien technology began generating energy patterns that nobody had planned for. The microwave ovens, now connected to Nari's power crystals, began emitting focused electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the alien ships. Cloaking. Suddenly, 3 massive vessels became visible in the sky above Seoul, their dark hulls gleaming in the afternoon sun. "It's working," Dong Hyeon shouted. "They can't stay invisible." The Kethmoran ships responded by dropping lower and launching smaller attack craft. These fighters were sleek and fast, designed to capture specific targets without causing too much collateral damage, but they were not designed to deal with Taemin's creative interpretation of physics. Not when the first fighter dove toward the lab. It ran into a field generated by Dr. Lee's modified particle accelerator. The alien craft suddenly began moving in slow motion, as if it were flying through thick honey. "Temporal distortion field," Dr. Lee explained, grinning despite the danger. "I always wondered if that would work in practice." Captain Yoon's soldiers opened fire with conventional weapons, but their bullets bounced harmlessly off the alien ship's shields. The captain looked frustrated until Taemin handed him a strange device that looked like a rifle crossed with a satellite dish. "Electromagnetic pulse gun," Taemin said. "I built it from old microwave parts and some of Nari's crystals. It should disrupt their shields." Captain Yoon aimed the device at one of the slow-moving fighters and pulled the trigger. Instead of a bullet, a wave of crackling energy shot out and struck the alien craft. Its shields flickered and died, and Dong Hyeon immediately took control of its systems using a computer virus he had designed to work on any logical system. "Got one," he called out. Their computer systems are actually pretty simple once you get past the fancy interface. The battle became a chaotic mix of high technology and human improvisation. Alien energy weapons fired at positions where the humans had been seconds before, only to find mirrors and holograms created by equipment borrowed from the universities. Theater Department.NAR. I watched in amazement as the humans adapted and improvised, faster than the aliens could adjust their tactics. When the Kethmoran tried to jam their communications, Dong Hyeon switched to a network he had built using modified gaming headsets. When they tried to track individual humans, Dr. Lee activated a field that made everyone's heat signature look identical. Your species is impossible to predict, Nari told Tae-min as they ducked behind a barricade made from cafeteria tables and laboratory equipment. That's kind of the point, Tae-min replied, adjusting a device that was shooting concentrated bursts of gravity waves at the alien ships. You can't plan for chaos. The tide of the battle turned when Captain Yoon realized that the alien ships were trying to maintain specific positions to keep their capture beams focused on Nari. He coordinated with Dr. Lee to create a feedback loop using the university's electrical grid and Nari's power crystals. The result was spectacular. A pulse of energy shot up from the campus and spread across the city like ripples on a pond. Every electronic device in Seoul flickered for a moment, then came back online stronger than before. But the alien ships were not prepared for that level of power surge. Their systems overloaded and their weapons failed. 2 of the 3 main ships crashed into the Han River, sending up enormous fountains of steam and water. The 3rd ship's commander, desperate to complete his mission, tried to ram the physics lab directly. But Tae-min was ready for him. A hybrid defense system that had been generating random energy patterns suddenly focused all its power into a single, impossible effect. The diving alien ship hit what felt like a solid wall made of crystallized time and space. It stopped so suddenly that everyone could hear the metal screaming in protest. The ship hung motionless in the air for a moment, then simply fell apart. Pieces of alien technology rained down across the campus, but the dangerous components had been neutralized by the strange field surrounding the lab dot and the sudden silence that followed. Nari looked around at the humans who had just defeated an advanced alien strike force using improvised weapons and creative thinking. I need to contact the Galactic Council immediately, she said. They are going to want to know about this. Detective Oh Min-ho, who had watched the entire battle from his command post, picked up his radio with shaking hands. Control, this is Detective Oh. I'm going to need a much bigger report form. Captain Yoon looked at his soldiers, who were staring at the pieces of alien technology scattered around the campus. Men, I think we're going to need to update our training manual. But Tae-min was already thinking about what came next. They had won this battle, but word would spread quickly through the galaxy that humans were more dangerous than anyone had realized. The question was, would that make Earth safer, or put it in even greater danger? The Galactic Council Chamber was unlike anything humans had ever imagined. It was a vast sphere floating in space, with representatives from hundreds of different species arranged in circles that defied normal geometry. Some delegates breathed methane, others lived in pools of liquid nitrogen, and a few existed as pure energy patterns that danced in containment fields. Tae-min felt very small and very human as he stood next to Nari at the center of the chamber. Dong Hyun, Dr. Lee, Captain Yoon, and Detective Oh stood beside him, representing Earth at the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. It had been 1 week since the battle at Seoul National University. In that time, everything had changed. The crashed Kethmoran ships had provided enough alien technology to advance human science by decades. Dr. Lee was now heading a new international research consortium, studying faster-than-light travel and energy manipulation. Captain Yoon was training Earth's first interstellar defense force. Detective Oh had been promoted to head the new Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. But the biggest change was in how the galaxy saw humanity. The testimony of Princess Nari. A Velther has been recorded, announced the council speaker, a being that looked like a tree made of crystal and light. The Kethmoran Syndicate has been found guilty of unprovoked aggression against a primitive species. This violation of galactic law requires severe punishment. Murmurs filled the chamber. Tae-min could not understand the alien languages, but Nari had given him a translation device that whispered the meaning in his ear. Most of the delegates were shocked that a primitive species had defeated an advanced military force. However, the speaker continued, the events on Earth have raised serious questions about our classification system. Species listed as primitive are not supposed to possess the capability to defeat Kethmoran battlecruisers. A delegate that looked like a floating jellyfish made of metal spoke up. The humans used hybrid technology. They combined their crude devices with Veiltheran equipment. This is not evidence of advancement, merely luck. Luck? Another voice came from a being that resembled a walking mountain covered in eyes. They defeated 3 warships using kitchen appliances and university laboratory equipment. This was not luck. This was tactical brilliance. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued that humans were too dangerous to be left alone. Others insisted that humanity had proven itself worthy of galactic citizenship. A few suggested that Earth should be quarantined until the humans could be properly studied. Finally, Princess Nari was called to speak. "Honored Council," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "I have lived among humans for 1 week. I have seen their planet, studied their society, and witnessed their capabilities. They are not like any species we have encountered before." She paused and looked at Tae Min. Most civilizations develop technology first, then wisdom. Humans seem to develop both simultaneously. They create weapons of mass destruction, then form organizations to prevent their use. They discover nuclear power, then work to eliminate nuclear weapons. They are a species at war with their own potential for destruction. "That makes them dangerous," interrupted the jellyfish delegate. "That makes them unique," Nari replied. "Their greatest strength is not their technology. It is their ability to adapt, to find new solutions when old ones fail. When faced with superior alien technology, they did not surrender or panic. They improvised. They took equipment designed for completely different purposes and made it work together in ways that should have been impossible." She turned to address the entire council. "We have been wrong about primitive species. We have assumed that technological advancement is the only measure of intelligence and capability. But humans have shown us that creativity and adaptability may be more valuable than advanced weapons or faster ships." The crystal tree speaker processed this information for several minutes. "What does the Princess of Velther propose?" "I propose that humanity be granted immediate membership in the Galactic Council, not as a junior member or probationary species, but as full equals. They have earned this right through their actions." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates were outraged, others intrigued. The debate might have continued for days, but it was interrupted by an urgent message. A Kethmoran battle fleet, much larger than the one that had attacked Earth, was approaching the council chamber. Their leader was demanding the return of Princess Nari and the punishment of the humans who had interfered in their operation. 30 ships, reported the council's military advisor. "They outnumber our defense fleet 3-1. The speaker turned to the human delegation. "It appears that your actions have consequences beyond Earth. Are you prepared to face them?" Tae Min looked at his friends, then stepped forward. "Honored Council, we didn't start this fight, but we're not going to run from it either." Dr. Lee joined him. "If I may, we have a proposal. Give us access to your technical databases and manufacturing facilities. 3 days, that's all we need." "What could you possibly accomplish in 3 days?" asked the mountain delegate. "We're going to show the Kethmoran why picking a fight with humans was a mistake," Dong Haiyan said, grinning. The next 3 days were a blur of activity. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists, combining technologies in ways that had never been attempted. Tae Min found himself designing weapon systems that incorporated principles from 12 different civilizations. Dr. Lee developed new defensive shields using human chaos theory and Veiltheran energy crystals. Captain Yoon trained crews from dozens of species in human tactical doctrine. "Forget everything you know about proper military procedure," he told them. "We're going to teach you how to cheat." When the Kethmoran fleet arrived, they expected to face the Council's traditional defensive formation. Instead, they encountered something completely different. The human-designed defense grid did not try to match the enemy's firepower. Instead, it turned the battlefield itself into a weapon. Space mines that looked like asteroids. Energy fields that redirected the Kethmoran's own weapons back at them. Decoy ships that split apart and reformed like liquid metal. But the most effective weapon was information warfare. Donghyun had designed a computer virus that spread through the Kethmoran fleet's communication system, causing their ships to receive contradictory orders and conflicting sensor data. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Kethmoran commander was requesting terms of surrender. In the aftermath, the Galactic Council voted unanimously to grant humanity full membership. But that was only the beginning of Earth's rewards. Princess Nari stood before the human delegation with a smile that lit up her glowing features. "By ancient law, anyone who saves the life of Valtheron royalty may claim a reward. Kim Tae-min, you saved my life. What would you ask of me?" Tae-min thought carefully. He could ask for anything: wealth, power, advanced technology for himself. But he had learned something important during the past weeks. "I want humanity to have a chance," he said. "Not just to survive, but to contribute. We want to be partners in exploring the galaxy, not subjects to be protected or prisoners to be contained." "Granted," Nari said immediately. "But the law requires that I give you more than you ask for." What followed exceeded every human dream of first contact. Earth became the site of the galaxy's first hybrid technology institute, where human creativity was combined with alien science to develop innovations that neither could achieve alone. Seoul National University became the most advanced research facility in known space. Dr. Lee found herself leading teams of scientists from across the galaxy, working on projects that would have been pure fantasy just weeks before. Captain Yoon commanded the new Galactic Defense Initiative, teaching alien species the human art of impossible tactics. Detective Oh headed the Interplanetary Crime Division, investigating cases that spanned multiple star systems. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed primitive species. The human example led to a new policy of cooperation, rather than condescension. Dozens of previously ignored civilizations were contacted and invited to share their unique perspectives. Taemin himself became Earth's first galactic ambassador, though he still kept his apartment near the university. He often found himself explaining human thinking to confused alien diplomats. "You have to understand," he would tell them. "Humans don't just think outside the box. We forget there was ever a box in the first place." 1 year later, Taemin stood on the observation deck of Earth's first space station, watching ships from dozens of worlds dock at the orbital ports. Some carried trade goods, others brought scientists and diplomats. A few were simply tourists, curious to see the planet, whose people had changed the galaxy. Nar. I joined him at the viewing window. She had decided to establish a permanent embassy on Earth, claiming that she was still learning new things about human nature every day. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Your species will never be the same. You can never go back to being isolated and innocent." Tae-min watched a human crew working alongside alien engineers to repair a damaged ship. Their different approaches to the same problem had created a solution that was better than either could have achieved alone. "No regrets," he said. "We were never meant to be alone in the universe."